One thing I do like about the cover that you have invented to protect it from assertive puppies, because they will tear up everything because they're going through, their teeth are growing in and everything, um, is that one thing breeders know is that puppies like to back up against something in order when they're learning how to poop in the first place. And so they can back up against those covers, and it's real easy to just wipe it. Um,
Mhm.
I like the idea of having the whelping panels up against it completely so that that can happen. And it just is very much easier to clean than the grate system with the shavings or pellets or whatever. So one of the questions that came up is a lot of people do use grates. They like the puppies to be on top of a grate so everything falls through. Do you recommend putting a grate on top of that?
Generally not. A couple of people have asked, like we came up with that cover that holds down all four sides of the paper and to prevent the dogs from pulling it every which way. So the question is, why do you want the grate? If it's for the purpose of holding the paper down, we already have a solution that that achieves that goal. If there's some folks that want, this the urine to drain so the puppy has a clean surface, the material inside the pad is extremely absorbent. Something you'll notice different on BrilliantPad compared to a regular puppy pad is if we were to pour water on both pads, you'll see it's wet and then it dries. But I would say come back to both pads, the regular pad and the BrilliantPad, after a minute. Put your hands on the liquid you just poured. You'll notice the regular pad is wet and stays wet for a long time. And you'll find BrilliantPad will feel dry generally within about 60 seconds. So if the goal is to keep the paws off dirty, wet surface, the pad kind of does that for you. And then in terms of the solid waste, one of the nice features of BrilliantPad is when you're ready to whisk it away, press the button and poop be gone. If you have a grate, then you have to somehow get it off and shake it. So it would actually get in the way of the easy disposing of the waste. So again, I think we have a solution that holds the paper to prevent it from being pulled or ripped. There's absorbent material that ensures everything is dry, and the system can handle not just the liquids, but also roll away the solids, and that's best performed without a grate.
Okay, I would agree with that. I think the grate be gone at this point. I don't think there's a purpose in having that on there. It just gives you something else to have to clean, and the whole point is to keep that labor down. Um, so I did buy the ramp
Okay.
because I'm a boxer breeder for 5 decades, but I'm beginning to downsize, and so my litter right now is Boston Terriers, and I have a puppy that was born at 4 ounces, and I knew she was going to need the ramp. So she's about to be moved into the nursery, and that ramp is incredibly well made. I'm just so awed by the quality of all the components. It's got a great non-slip surface on it that I think could take a lot of cleaning, vigorous cleaning if it needed. Um, so that's a wonderful thing that got added to it. Since we're on the subject of puppies being aggressive or assertive with it, one of the people in one of the groups that I was in said something about, she said, well, my Vizslas would tear up everything on there. They would eat that green power button, which I found I could probably put the device up against one of the whelping pen panels to prevent that. But I just wanted to know if you could comment on that in your experience with these 100 breeders.
In general, I think the feedback we receive from breeders about dogs playing with or tearing at the paper is what led to the creation of what we call the unicover, which again holds the paper on all four sides. Um, based on breeder feedback, we changed the color of the latches. There are green latches that hold the cover in place, prevents the cover from coming off so the dog doesn't move it off. You can just with your fingers just turn it to remove, and it's a very easy locking mechanism. Feedback we got, even though dogs see colors differently than humans, they also see contrast. So we changed the color of our latches to make it color match to the unicover, so there wasn't something that was like sticking out for the dog. It was We went through a process like, well, they can't see green like humans do, but the fact is we learned that there was contrast, and anything that's different sticks out and says, please come play with me. So we changed the colors of things to avoid something that would attract extra attention. And then in terms of the buttons themselves, they're nice, they're flat and flush. So it's not to say that it can't be. We don't have reports of dogs somehow pressing the button to advance it, the angle of attack required to depress the button, and compared to like most dogs and their paws, it just doesn't that's something that we haven't heard of. Not to say that it
Mm.
can't be done, and I mean, at some point someone say, look what my dog did. I'm sure there's some surveillance video out there. It's possible, but the way the buttons are pressed and how they're the level of surface below the overlay, it's not something they can get at easily. And in terms of dogs, no, chewing through things. Look, on occasion, like there's a reason we do sell replacement power cords from time to time. They get chewed through. Based on breeder feedback, our new power cords they're wrapped with a metal coil. And we've given that to a number of breeders, just not plugged in, but it said, treat this as a toy and tell us what happens. And we get the text message after a day. They play with it all day, and it looks like there's no marks on it. And then the next day, hey, again, just reminder, this has not been plugged in, but just to chew on the cord to see what happens. So yes, we can provide, it's a low voltage power cord, power supply. We do sell replacements, but again, because of breeder feedback, these are the kind of things that have been protected and ruggedized to make it stand up in the whelping pen.
Very well thought out.